Yo, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? So today we are going to be covering the part C of our Saturn transit, because just one planet and understanding the transit of one planet is a long drawn procedure. It's not just simple. I cannot tell you that in 5 minutes. This is why these are 30-40 minute video. I don't know how long this is going to be, but I'm going to try to sum it up as quickly as possible in the most detailed fashion as possible. And as you might have noticed, the background's gone. I'm moving. So yeah, I'll get a whole new studio soon. It'll be a while, but in a month. So today we are going to be covering our Saturn part 3 video. And for this, you need to know where your Saturn, what ascendant you have, what moon sign you have, where your planets are placed, including your Saturn. So you can see when Saturn transits on its yearly transit, what is it going to do? And for that, you can check out the links here and check out my full astrological report, including my books, Astrology, Conjunction, and Aspects at the Speed of Light, including all my books and consultations at this link. So Saturn through, or Saturn house rulership, that's what this video is about. Well, you got to understand that Saturn gives its result based on certain factor, its natural identity, which is what? A malefic planet. Okay? Saturn is a natural malefic planet. That's his natural significance. Okay? So somehow, some way, he will always try to bring some sort of like chronic, not pain, it brings chronic situations. Like, let's say you become a billionaire in your Saturn Mahadasha, yet at the same time, you have joint pains in your knee for some reason. And you just can't figure out why. Life is so perfect and, you know, here I am getting joint pain. So somehow, some way, Saturn always brings his true significance into play. But then house rulership matters even more, because we want to see if Saturn is a natural malefic or benefic for your horoscope. And the way to determine this is if Saturn's sign of Aquarius, okay, if it's falling in any house except the 6th house, 8th house, and 12th house, it becomes benefic. Especially for Taurus, Gemini, and Libra ascendant, Scorpio ascendant, Aquarius ascendant, Capricorn ascendant, it becomes a very potent planet. And this is like the idea of functional malefic and functional benefic. And I've already made a video on how to determine if a planet is functional malefic or functional benefic in your horoscope. Meaning, depending upon what its mole trikon sign is in the horoscope, those are the situations that you're really going to be dealing with. Now, if your functional malefic planet not only controls the 6th, 8th, or 12th house, but also the Kendra house, 1st, 4th, 7th, and 10th, then that maleficness is cancelled. Then it'll actually give you great results. Meaning, for example, let's say for Cancer ascendant person, Saturn rules the 8th house, right? With his Aquarius sign, so oh my God, it's a malefic planet. But then Saturn also rules the 7th house, which is what? The Kendra house. So here Saturn will kind of reverse his results. Instead of giving you sudden bad things, you will transform things. You will transform people's life. You will revolutionize things. You will get sudden gains in Saturn period. So that's one way of understanding this Saturn timing. Meaning that Saturn transit is always going to be depending upon how Saturn is placed in your horoscope, what houses it's ruling in your horoscope. Depending upon these house rulership, it's going to bring its significance into play. So for a Libra ascendant, let's say if Saturn is ruling the fourth and fifth house. Anytime it transit, it's going to bring benefic results because of the fact it rules the fourth house of happiness, home, mother, vehicles, conveniences, fifth house of children and speculative wealth, education. So whenever it transits, whatever house it's transiting, it's going to be giving results of these two houses through the house that it's transiting. Meaning that for Libra ascendant, Saturn transits the ninth house, it can show that one actually in this time period will travel. Perhaps they will travel with their children, and that's when they will feel happy. So happiness is coming because it's through traveling. Happiness is coming through traveling because ninth house is long distance travel. In this transit of Saturn of 2.5 years, you're going to come across higher knowledge, higher philosophy. You're going to come across gurus and teachers who will teach you things and wisdom. Like some of you might be going through this and you came across Sunil. You came across Juan Paul Manley, all these great astrologers giving you great wisdom, Arjun Pai. And this is why Saturn house rulership matters just like any other planet. If Saturn is ruling your ascendant and is transiting over whatever house, it's going to represent the significance of the ascendant and make you experience it through the house that is transiting. So if Saturn rules your ascendant, okay, with his Mool Trikon sign of Aquarius, and Saturn transits the fifth house, in this period, your ego, your personality, and your health will be determined and will depend upon and will improve through the fifth house matter, meaning engaging into games, sports, dealing with children, educating yourself. This is what's really going to build your ego in this transit of Saturn. But because Saturn rules two houses, it will also give result of the other house. So fine, Saturn is a functional benefic planet for your ascendant. But it also rules and governs the sign of Capricorn. So wherever Capricorn is placed, that house will also be given some representation. It's, let's say, we'll give it a 70-30 ruling. 70% of the results will be given through the Mool Trikon sign, 30% results will be given through the other sign. You can imagine this as a home, your primary home and your vacation home. Your primary home is Aquarius, your vacation home is Capricorn. So for an Aries ascendant, Saturn rules the 10th house and the 11th house. So if Saturn transiting, let's say your ascendant, Saturn is what? Saturn is transiting in the sign of Aries, where it's debilitated. So in 2.5 years, what can happen? A person may get demoted. Your ego, your self-esteem may be hurt because of the lack of opportunities at work. Your recognition will not be there. Your gains will not be there because at this time, you are forced to individualize yourself than to share it with other people. You become too egoistic because Saturn, why is it that Saturn is debilitated in Aries? And why Sun is exalted in Aries? Because Sun likes to have that ego. Sun likes to be in a leadership position. Sun wants to sit on a throne alone. Saturn is not like that. Saturn likes to work for the people, by the people, going towards social welfare, social reform. Saturn is among the crowd. Saturn wants to help the poor. It cannot help the poor when it's in the throne, on the throne. It does not like commanding. It likes working because Saturn is about work. So what happens when Saturn is transiting the ascendant, suddenly your ego gets into the way with your work and your ability to be recognized, your ability to get gains. You may say something to your co-workers and you may hurt their feelings and it spreads. And next thing you know, they have to let you go because of the things that you're saying egotistically. You get into or fights with your friends, all kinds of frickles with your network circle and friends. So you get cut off from that when Saturn is transiting the first house. And this could be because of your own fault. because Saturn is now representing you in the ascendant. But because it's debilitated, what it's doing is, remember, if you watched my first video and if you watch my second video, Saturn's not there because it's debilitated, it's not going to do some bad stuff. No. You were building all these stuff already, but when Saturn was coming into the ascendant, it triggered like, oh, okay, well, you were doing all this stuff. Well, let's get you recognized for all the stuff that you were doing. So it's not like Saturn entered Aries and you suddenly woke up and became bad. No, you were behaving in a certain things. You were doing certain things in your work, with your network circle. And when it came into the ascendant, it made you realize as to why you're reaping the negative karma of your actions. So let's say if Saturn is about to transit your first house within 2 years, it's in Pisces, and you know there's trouble at work, there's signs of layoffs coming soon, but this doesn't come. You're like, oh, well, I'm fine, I'm happy. But suddenly when Saturn comes into the sign of Aries, career house, your 10th house that Saturn rules, suddenly it has to pay its karma. So what happens? A company has to lay off 6,000 workers just to get the stock up. Sure, it wasn't your fault. But in a way, it was your fault. Because you're going to blame Saturn, right? You're going to blame Saturn like, oh, you're debilitated. My goodness, you're giving me the hardest time. But why didn't you look for a different job at that time when you knew things could have been bad? Why didn't you think about starting something on your own? Starting your own business. So you don't have to worry about getting a paycheck from someone else. You make your own hours, you make your own world, you make your own income out there where sky's the limit. You're stuck with a certain amount every week, but with your own business, you can get 20 clients at the same time. Why didn't you think about that before? So when I get people who have Saturn transiting the ascendant and they're like, man, I suddenly lost my job. I suddenly lost this. It was not my fault. They just let me go. I don't know why. No, they let you go because you were expandable. And Saturn, and if you watch any of my Saturn video, I've made countless video, at least 10 videos on Saturn. Saturn wants you to break boundaries. Saturn wants you to break tradition. Saturn wants you to be responsible of your own life. Back in the days when Saturn existed with human beings 100,000 years ago, there was no corporation, there was no job, there was no paycheck. You either had to live or die by the food that you hunted, or you lived and died by the animal who's going to hunt you. In this era, just think about it in this time. What would Saturn would want you to do? And what were humans doing? They were all individualized people who were simply striving to survive. Survival didn't come from filling out an application on some website so you can get that job. No, your survival came from going out there with the hunt, with your knife and hunting for your food. This is why it becomes imperative, especially for humans. All of you who are watching this to realize you weren't meant to be trapped in this circus of corporations. I don't care what corporation. Top 3 corporations in the US, you can name them. You weren't supposed to be trapped into it, but you got trapped because of the redundant, routine slokas that you have heard or statements that you heard since growing up. And so this is why Saturn transit becomes hard, because you are just sitting here in your cubicle. You're sitting here. You're just, yeah, I did my work. Basically, an average worker only works 1 hour or 2 hours max out of 40 hours that they work in a job. So you're sitting here, that's fine. Today's Thursday. Tomorrow I'm going to get paid anyway. Let me go home. All right, fine. I'm happy. You just get stuck in that routine. It's like you're in this merry-go-round and you're just sitting and you're moving. You're okay. Life is going good. You got enough savings. You know, your kids are going to school. You got food on the table, and then bam, somebody stops the merry-go-round and you fall off. Why? Because it wasn't you controlling the merry-go-round. It was somebody else controlling the merry-go-round. And when they stopped, without you knowing, without warning you, you fell because you couldn't control yourself. You couldn't balance yourself. Where does this balance come from of Saturn? Through effort, through self-effort. This is why Saturn becomes the most important planet in Mahadasha, in transit, in birthplace. Saturn becomes the karka, of your 8th house, 10th house, 12th house. Because if you do the karma, or if you don't do the karma, either you're going to be liberated or you're going to be sunk inside. So just like we did the sun transit through houses, you got to understand this too. Sun ruling, let's say, Artha houses. 2nd house, 6th house, 10th house in your horoscope. These are houses of income and work. These are the houses of earnings. These are the houses of your reputation through which you earn. Specifically for these people, the transit of Saturn will always somehow bring about things related to income and money and reputation, no matter where it transits. Your Saturn transit controls your 10th house, goes into the 8th house. What happens? You suddenly lose a job. Now your reputation is ruined. In your society, you cannot show your nose, right? Whatever that saying is in India. Like if somebody loses a job, it's just like, whoa, it's such a bad thing. And so now you're embarrassed. You want to jump off the bridge. Because what are you going to tell the people? Saturn rules your 2nd house. All the financial matters will be revealed through the houses that is transiting, for the good or for the bad. 6th house is service. How good are you in service? What kind of service are you providing? Every house the Saturn transit will somehow reveal your ability to service other people through those houses. 6th Lord Saturn is traveling into the 9th house. You're going to have to go to a foreign land to provide service to people. Now, this is where people say, well, these are jobs then. Fine, these are jobs. But guess what? Feeding a homeless is a service. Opening a nonprofit organization is a service. Providing food at a restaurant is a service. This could be your own restaurant, but you're providing a service to someone. And obviously in this scenario, you have to understand the sign placement of Saturn as well. So if Artha houses related to work, Moksha houses, 12th, 4th, and 8th house will always have to do somehow with what makes you feel happy, with what makes you feel enlightened. That's how Saturn's transit will always be affecting you in that way. Saturn rules your Trikon, 1st, 5th, or 9th house. Saturn will always make you aware of your dharma. What you are to do, what you're supposed to do. This is why you see politicians and great social workers with Saturn in the 1st house, 5th house, 9th house, because their dharma becomes about service. Their dharma becomes about fighting and about putting their effort into changing societies. But, many people don't recognize these qualities of Saturn. They simply just want to know this: when will I get a next new job? I actually had it today. And it's like I should just play a recorder in my consultations. They're like, I lost my job. When will I get a new job? Can you just tell me the date? I'm like, you can get a job anytime. Why are you waiting for a date, first of all? It's like, when can I apply for a job? No, you should not be asking an astrologer for that. You should be applying for a job 5 times a day, 10 times a day. If you apply for a job once a week versus 50 times a week, you apply for a job once a week, this guy applies for a job 50 times a week. Who do you think has a better chance of getting and landing at least 2 interviews in one week? Yeah, this guy. But then, again, like this person got second consultation from me, and I told him clearly he had Saturn in the 3rd house in the ascendant, Saturn in the 3rd house in the Dasamsha chart. So what it does, it makes you get fired, makes you get laid off. And then you're just like going from one astrologer to the other like a vagabond. When will I happen? When will I this? When will I that? And you don't get the underlining of Saturn. He's like, bro, you're supposed to do your own business. You're supposed to make money through your own effort. That's why I am ringing this bell for you. Saturn rules the 3rd house, good house, Upacha house, grows better with time, especially when a Pacha house has malefic planets in it, or a malefic planet rules that house, which is the 3rd, 6th, 10th, and 11th house. So what is Saturn trying to do with you losing that job? It's trying to help you grow as a person. He doesn't want you to lose a job so you can be embarrassed. He wants you to lose a job so you can throw that away and start an empire. Like, for example, Hugh Hefner. He was the editor at some newspaper, and he was making $15 an hour back in 1940s or 50s, which was like $80 or $100 now, if not more. And all he said from 15, he said, I want to make $20 an hour. I want this raise. And they said, no, we're not going to do that. So he's like, screw it, I'm going to quit. He quit that. And after he quit that, he started his own empire of Playboy. It's a $3.2 billion empire today. So when I give you this consultation 4 months ago, and I said, look, this is happening, and this is what Saturn's trying to do, you need to do this. And then you get the consultation again, when will I get a job? It's like you heard what I said from this year, and you took it out from this year. What am I supposed to do? I'm not going to hold your hand and make you do a business. Like, I get people, I have no money. How do I start a business? My family's not in business. We're workers. How do I do that? Well, my family is not a business people family. We're all government workers. My own uncle, who's an astrologer, was a government administrator, kind of like Kapiel Raaj. And then my uncle is an engineer. He's a civil engineer in government, retired, and been doing astrology for 40 years. But it was me who's like, I am tired of this shenanigan. I am a human, man. I am an independent human who can hunt for its own food. This is what our instincts are. So when you get fired, you know that anger you have towards your bosses, your corporation, and you storm out? That's your instinct telling you that you're a fighter. Come on, go out there, fight. You can make your own bread. You can make your own Google. You can make your own Apple. Why do you keep putting yourself in a pond where there's not enough water left in there? So anywhere Saturn transits ruling whatever house is, doesn't mean, even if it rules the Dushtana house, let's say Saturn rules the 6th house with his Mool Trikon sign. You're a Virgo ascendant. Saturn comes into your ascendant in Virgo. Virgo is a sign of looking into details, doing the work. Okay? Virgo is all about getting to the war zone and cleaning stuff out. And 6th house, which Saturn rules, is a house of enemies, obstacles, illnesses, diseases, services, loans, scandals. Comes into the ascendant. Based on what you were doing before it transited your ascendant, it's going to give results based on that. If you were providing a great service to people, helping people, nourishing people, taking care of people, helping the poor, when it comes into your ascendant, it's not going to bring enemies to you. It's not going to bring diseases to you. You know what it's going to bring? It's going to bring you recognition for the services you gave in the 6th house. The reason why I say this, it's not BS, it's because I've seen it in people's chart. Saturn, ruling the 6th house, comes into the ascendant. Your enemies come to you. And what Saturn does, he's like, you better face your enemies now. Because this whole time you're running away from your enemies, right? Let's say even somebody wants to physically hit you. You always ignore a party because they might be there. You're always looking at the parking lot, seeing if that person is not there because they're right in your complex or in your neighborhood. But now that it's transiting ascendant, it's not like his Saturn wants you to get beat up. Saturn's like, once you face your enemy face to face and you deal with that enemy is not going to come again, because it knows that you are there like a mama bear, willing to stand your ground and face it. So when you see that obstacle come into you in front of you, you're like, oh my God, how do I escape this? Don't escape it, face it. Let's say you get some illnesses, you get some chronic illness. You get arthritis. Well, this is what a common man will do. What should you be doing as a human? You should be like, all right, here's my disease. Here's the thing. How do I break this boundary of the disease, and how do I get rid of it? Many people will just be like going down. They get even more old when they find out about these diseases. My mom had was told that she has arthritis back in 1998. My mom like, screw this. What do these doctors know? My mom went to an Ayurvedic doctor. He gave her some powder to eat in the morning and evening. Within 1 week, that pain was gone, and since then she never had a pain. Then Baba Ramdev came. Whatever illnesses that she was dealing with, my grandparents were dealing with, they started doing the pranayam and the Kapiel Raaj, bam. I mean, my grandfather can run like a 20-year-old. His bones are so strong. So whatever Saturn is bringing you through its house rulership, it's for you to dare to become more mature, for you to dare beat that obstacle so you can become the person you're supposed to be. If you don't be able to beat that obstacle, how are you going to tell your kids? If they run into the same situation, you're probably going to tell them, oh, no, run. Avoid this person as much as possible. Avoid these things as much as possible. But if you went through these situations yourself, you faced them, you fought, you won, what do you think your kids are going to be like? You are going to be able to tell your kids, oh, you're going through this situation. Well, this is what I did. I faced it, and I did this, and I did that. You'd be like, okay, let me do this too. So, like people who give you wisdom, if you want to be those people who give other people wisdom, face as many obstacles and challenges as possible in your life. For you to become that, like Tony Robbins, the greatest, the most famous motivational speaker in the world. If you saw his biography on A&E, and I gave an example to a person in career consultation, you will realize the kind of hardship that he went through. He was homeless for months on end to now be worth over $750 million. Why? Because he took Saturn's hand and he walked the line. He didn't see Saturn and run. He held Saturn's hand and he went. Because when he went, Saturn from just this much made him into this tall of a person. So now he's out there talking about any kind of a hardship, any kind of a problem to anybody and bringing them out of it. So regardless of what house Saturn is ruling, how it's coming about, just gotta know Saturn simply wants you to tap into your instinct of you and your essence as a human being. Is for you to go out there and hunt and not be hunted. You need to go out there and not eat the fish that somebody gave you. You need to go out there and fish Moby Dick and eat that fish. That's what Saturn, the potential of Saturn is. I don't know if you guys have heard the tale of Moby Dick, the white big whale. I mean, you guys can Google it now. It's just an example I'm giving, but that's what Saturn is all about. This is this one planet that can take a person from rag to riches and riches to rag. And you could probably have heard these tales all over the internet about Saturn. Sati can make a king into a beggar if that person was not following their proper dharma in this life or facing challenges head on, not running from their challenges. Okay? So guys, this was my analysis of Saturn's house rulership in your horoscope and how its transits affects. If you're new to my channel, subscribe below. And if you want to know where your Saturn is placed, all my books, reports, consultations, for that, check out the links here. Otherwise, we'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.